بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, this is the month of Rabi al-Awwal, and as Muslims our greatest example is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is mentioned as Khatamun Nabiyyin, seal of the prophets, Khairul Khalqillah, best of Allah's creation. Everything Allah has created is nothing better than what He created as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This month is the month when he was born, but it does not mean that this is the only month we remember Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our amal, our actions should be based upon his literal, interpretations. So when a child mimics someone, they only mimic that person because of the interest to that thing. We don't have Rasulullah sallam in front of us, but what we do have is a silsila of ulama karam. Ulama karam that follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are your guide. They are your best guide. Why I say this? Because they are mentioned in hadith. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran about the ulama, about the learned, the people of the deen. And I'm not talking about myself individually, I'm talking about the pious predecessors, the first three golden generations. خير قرن قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. Sahaba, tabi'een, taba tabi'een. If we want to know how we are going to actually imitate and follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we have to look at these great examples of these men, how they spent their time gathering ilm, traveling, and being certified as great superstars within our time. And you look at one example, Shama'il Muhammadiyah, also known as Imam Tirmidhi's famous kitab, 339 hadith, in which Imam Tirmidhi is noting down how Rasulullah ate, how he walked, how he talked, what libas he wore, how he literally combed his beard, how he flicked his hair back, what did he put on his hair, what did he wear on his hat, what did he put as an amama. All of these things you find in this great kitab. Imam Tirmidhi is also a student of Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah. In fact, Imam Bukhari, towards the latter stages, took Imam Tirmidhi as he discovered two extra hadith he did not discover. He took his own student and said, I respect you because you've elevated yourself to a high degree. So he took Imam Tirmidhi's two hadith and added them into his Sahih. That just shows you that the student was elevated to the point that even the teacher was looking towards him. Now what Mufti Zahir was saying is that youngsters that did the Qiraat today, they are going to be the future, the pioneers of our future. Because the reality is, if we don't hold tight onto our Iman, then we're going to hold tight onto nothing. And when we say nothing, you'll find all the other things that come in this dunya, every single facade that comes, it is for that time only. And once it disappears, a new facade starts again. Right now, the facade is social media. Social media has become a dominant creature within people's life. In fact, people are taking their aqidah from social media. In fact, there's scholars for dollars on social media who one day are preaching really beautiful things, using fantastic graphics, all the artwork. And then Allah has caught them out. How? Because they themselves, they didn't study amongst ulama, they didn't take Sunnah, they didn't understand the deen of Islam properly, and suddenly their inner nafs has created this, I need more followers. So they go into other platforms looking for followers. And this is the nafs talking, that it comes to the point that if you invite them for a talk, they will actually literally say, we want this much money. And they won't say it's hadiah, they say it's actually payment for us traveling, payment. So you have to think now, let's give you an example of Rasulullah teaching the Sahaba. Let's look at Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. Before Islam, he was one of the warriors of Makkah. Him and Hamza radiallahu anhu never clashed. tall, strong men. But once Hamza had accepted Islam, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Umar bin Khattab had not become Muslim. It was only after a situation where Rasulullah is making ruku or sujood in front of the Kaaba. These juhalas, they were by the Kaaba, Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, they all bartering each other. Who's got the guts to, will pay you so much dirham, throw this dead carcass on the back of the Prophet when he's making the ruku sajda. And that's what they did. Rasulullah was so upset. In front of the Kaaba, he named two people. He said, "Oh Allah, make such and such a Muslim. Follow my Sunnah." And he named Umar bin Khattab. It wasn't long before Umar bin Khattab became Muslim. It wasn't long before Umar bin Khattab took Al-Aqsa. It wasn't long before Umar bin Khattab left a golden legacy that was following Rasulullah Sunnah to every aspect he could. And I'll give you an example of the Sunnah of Umar bin Khattab that he himself followed when he knew that the tyranny of Makkah was too much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that this is a situation the Muslims have to do hijrah. So some went to Medina al-Munawwara, Medina Tayyibah as you want to call it today, and others went to Abyssinia. And in that time, Abu Bakr Sadiq travelled, and they would share the camel, quite literally sharing, that when Rasulullah arrived in Medina al-Munawwara, the people of Medina did not know what Rasulullah looked like. The Ansari people didn't know his face, but the Muhajirun did. And at that point, they were all thought the man on the camel was the Prophet ﷺ. But then, Muhajir, what are you doing? That is the Prophet ﷺ, the man that's walking in the dust, covered in dust. Umar bin Khattab, I'll give you the example of this Sunnah now. So, the Muslims have taken Al-Aqsa. They have been defending the Yehudi Jews because the Christians have come from Europe and invading and killing and slaughtering them. So Umar bin Khattab is now going to take Al-Aqsa. So the Jews, they were told, this is your final warning, that you should say Shahada and we will protect you. Or you leave Al-Aqsa complex from the eastern gate and you go back to the countries you've come from. This is the warning. Or thirdly, prepare yourself. After Fajr, prepare yourself. We will spare children, women and elderly. In that manner. They then said, we will give up under one condition. They said, what is the condition? We want Umar bin Khattab to be here himself when we sign the decree that we surrender. So one Sahaba, he rode a horse all the way back to Medina al-Munawwar. Think of the distance. It's like Scotland going to Paris. That's how far the distance is. We don't go on a high-speed train. We don't fly. We don't go helicopter. We're not going in a nice luxury car. We're going by horse through the desert. Because the lands are now protected by this great Sahaba, there's no danger. Even the Mushrikeen see no danger. Even whatever left of the Yehudi outside Medina see no danger. And this Sahaba arrived and said, this is what the Jews want. He said, okay, I'm ready, I'll come with you. So he rode back with them. And just like Rasulullah sharing the animal, Umar bin Khattab shared the animal. When he arrived, the Jews thought the man on the horse was Umar bin Khattab. He said, no. The man walking the last 10 to 100 miles covered in the dust is Umar bin Khattab. And it's narrated that many of these people who were Yehudi entered Islam. So Allahu Akbar. They saw the action. They're seeing an action that's based on what Umar bin Khattab saw from the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now let's look at Maqam al-Mahmuda in the Quran. A great maqam only given to Imam al-Anbiya, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gather all of us, we'll be standing on Hashrat al-Midan, also known as the Arafat, but in the larger version to accommodate every human. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is in one part, and every Anbiya and Rasul are in other parts with their followers. And the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, this hadith is found in Sahih Muslim. This is telling you now that Rasulullah is not saying anything at this point. And angel Jibreel alayhi salam is saying to many of the angels, Allah is angry so much today. Never seen Allah like this. So they go to Adam alayhi salam, So you are the first of Allah's creation. You are the one that all the angels did sajda to. وَإِذَا قُلْنِ الْمَلَائِكَةِ سُجُودِ لَآدَمَ فَسَجُودِ إِلْإِبْلِيسِ. You are the one that they all did sajda to. He said, but I'm the one that got tricked by shaitan. I took from the fruit of the tree. I can't. I fear. I can't. Ya Rabbi nafsi. Wallah, I think for myself. This is what he said. So now they go to Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh alayhi salam says, Ya Rabbi nafsi. Wallah, I think for myself. So now they move to Ibrahim, Khalilullah, friend of Allah. He again says, Ya Rabbi nafsi. They go to Musa alayhi salam. Ya Rabbi nafsi. Isa alayhi salam. Ya Rabbi nafsi. And finally, they go to Prophet sallallahu alayhi salam. So he enters the area and makes prostration to Allah Azza wa Jal, sajda. And he's in a long sajda. Then Allah says, Rafal yad, raise your head. What do you want? Oh Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what do you want? He said, I want Jannah and I want you to start this procession. This is Yawm al-Qiyamah. So Allah asks him, what do you want? He said, I want my ummah to go to Jannah. So Rasulullah is given amount of people that he can take out of hell. He comes back to Allah Azza wa Jal again, falls into sajda. Allah asks him again, raise your head. What do you want? He says, I want another portion of my ummah to go to Jannah. He comes out and then he comes back in, the sajda again for the third time. Now Allah is asking him, what do you want? He goes, I want every one of my ummah to not be in Jahannam. I want them all out, every single one of them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides, yes. But the Quran decides that only those who committed shirk and Allah did not pardon their kufr, they can't enter Jannah. So what does this tell us about hope in following the Nabi Sunnah? It tells us a great thing. It tells us that when we do our fara'id, then we do our wujubat and our sunnat, we are actually becoming closer in the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. What we can't say is we're guaranteed Jannah, because we will meet Allah and He will place the actual scales, the mizan. But we have hope from hadith that when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gives us this version of a hadith and saying, one Sahaba all his life didn't do anything, he just said shahada and then he passed away. Then on his qiyamah, Allah brings the shahada, puts it on the mizan, it outweighs everything. That one shahada outweighs everything. Now we come to shahada, the most important testification. Were you saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I bear witness, no deity, no God but Allah. And I bear witness, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is abduhu wa rasuluh. He is the slave and the worship of Allah only. We're saying this. Then the greatest thing we've got, of all the things that Rasulullah taught us to love Him with, is as-salah. Now we come to salah. As-salah is actually more important than everything you do all day. The one that prays is actually being invited by Allah. You should always think like this. Pray your last prayer as though it is literally like Asr today. You should think, maybe this is my last salah and I will not pray Maghrib because the maut will come. And I pray Maghrib and I think the maut will come. This is why Rasulullah said, I'm thinking of death sometimes 30 to 40 times a day. It's literally every action might be the last action. Now, when I teach in schools and colleges, I tell the students, you ever been on a roller coaster? Oh yes. What happens when you go on a roller coaster? Don't know. I said fear, yeah. Anxiety, yeah. Happiness, yeah, after you finish the roller coaster. The only time happiness is when you finish the roller coaster. To brag to your friends, I went on that thing up there, can you do that? I want to brag. Right. I said, okay. So when you're in the roller coaster, the fear and the anxiety is coming to you. You're hearing the mechanics of the machine. There's no doors. It's not like a car. There's no doors. You can see trees. You can see people. You can see people looking at you and you're thinking, what am I doing here now? This is a serious situation. And as you're going up, you're realizing that anything can happen now. And then you dip. As you're dipping, this is the problem when you don't have iman. You just scream something that is not iman. So you'll shout and scream, and that's all you're going to do. Now, where am I getting to? I'll explain. If you pray Fajr, 2 rakat Sunnah, 2 rakat Fard, you paid witness to Allah twice, tashahhud. You prayed Dhuhr. The first Sunnah you prayed with 2 tashahhud. The Fard with 2 tashahhud. The Sunnah 1 tashahhud. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times you've already said Shahada. Unconsciously, you don't know, but you're saying it because that's a Fard of Salah. Asr, whether you prayed the 4 Sunnah or not, you're going to do minimum 2. There goes 9. Maghrib, 3. So you're going to do 2 in the Fard and 1 in the Sunnah. Finally, you might shorten the Isha depending on your situation. You may do the Fard with 2 and a 3. So my point here is, on a daily basis, minimum, you're saying Shahada 15 times. And if you're saying the Shahada 15 times, bear witness to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you're bear witnessing that you're believing in him as the last prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then like the roller coaster, when you're dipping down, the angel of death is coming to take you, only Shahada is coming out of your mouth. So Allahu Akbar. Everyone say Allahu Akbar. This is the most important thing you're forgetting. Those that pray, they recite Shahada every day. And now you look at those that don't pray. We shouldn't go up to them and say, you're going to Jahannam. You are not worthy of Allah. Maybe they don't know this. What I'm telling you in a mechanics that they understand. Sometimes if you tell a child, if you don't pray namaz, this is going to happen. They don't like to hear that. Because the teacher doesn't tell that in the school. So, how do we get to the Sunnah methodology to get our children into the maktab? Well, let's look at a hadith where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is praying Salah. He's got his 2 grandsons, Hassan and Hussein. One is jumping on his back, one is grabbing his leg. Jump back. Now, let's be realistic. Someone saw that after Salah, I feel some screaming might be happening to that child. This is the reality. Unless you've got a soft heart. But Rasulullah, what did he do? He kissed his grandsons. And he didn't reprimand them. Because they're children. But what he was giving as an example is that they saw me praying and I can't do nothing to you. Because I am in connection with Allah. I cannot. The only time we can break our salah, gentlemen, according to the fiqh, is a fire. Grandparents calling us in distress. Dangerous animal, snake, some kind of rodent, something that puts fear in you. We can break the salah. Yeah? But other than that, we can't break the salah. We can't break the salah because our child is pulling on our jubbah. We can't do that. And after salah, if you really pray salah, yeah, then you shouldn't be scolding that child. That child should know, my father, my mother is in such connection with Allah that they've completely switched off from everything. That child would then understand. That's the importance of salah. How do you make the children come to the masjid? Well, sometimes you have to hold back. Don't bring young children who you know will run around, who create a little bit of honesty inside the salah hall. So, when the child becomes 5 turning 6 and they're going to get ready to maktab, they're potty trained, nappy trained, everything's finished. You tell them, you're going to a place that only big men go to. Big men. They feel great about that big men thing. That statement is called a masjid, and only men pray there. Because if you look at teenagers, they want to grow up to become men quick. It's quite ironic that this generation of people, as they get too old, they want to become younger. It comes flip. But the youngsters want to become older, and the older ones want to become younger. It's quite ironic. But the masjid is the place of salam and peace. So you have to show them from home, where Rasulullah said that you should pray nawafil and even some of your sunnah at home. لا تجعل بيوتا قبورا. Don't make your houses into graves. صلي صلاة في البيت. And the fardan fil masajid. And you see the children see this and see father going to the masjid. They have that connection that once, you know what, I think I should go with my dad. But you have to prepare them. If you bring them at a very young age, they won't understand. They won't engage with the masjid properly. There's going to be an issue. Now going back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's so many attributes of his sunnah. The way he ate, the way he slept. This is what we should be following. Most of us, when we go to sleep at night, we don't know what dua to recite. Just say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. After this, go to your local imam and ask him. Go and ask him. And he'll tell you, Allahumma bismika amutu wa ahya. Oh Allah, I die in your name and I live in your name. Then he'll tell you, there are Sahih Hadith, recite Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falak, Surah An-Nas, and blow on your hands and blow on your body. So you've protected yourself. You've protected yourself from what? Shaitan. Because in Sahih Bukhari, our Rasulullah tells the believers, every day a believer will have a shaitan come to him when he sleeps. He'll tie 3 knots on his neck. And the believer breaks those 3 knots. 1, when he gets out of bed. 2, when he makes wudu. And 3, when he's actually on the prayer mat. Every single night, my brothers, all of us who pray salah, that shaitan comes. To prevent that shaitan coming, you recite those 3 surahs. So then your body clock is going to wake you up for Fajr. Because you're already conditioned in praying Fajr. This is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Many years ago, I went to a dinner. There were Muslims there, all kinds of Muslims. And as I was sitting to eat, I went to the bathroom, washed my hand, pulled my hand up like this. Everyone has knife and forks. So another brother who came with me, he did the same thing. As we were eating, there was another brother. He said, how illiterate people are. He was having a dig at me. I knew it. How illiterate people are. They don't know civilization. They don't know how to eat properly. I'm like, I stopped. I said, excuse me, are you talking about me? Oh, no. Oh, I'm going to eat my hand. He said, well, you have a knife and fork. Why don't you use it? I said, can I ask you a question? I said, of course you can. Go, when's the last time you ate a packet of crisps with a spoon? And was the last time you had a chocolate bar with a knife and fork? And he's looking at me like I've stunned him. So when last time you had a burger with a knife and fork? When's the last time you ate a naan with a knife and fork? I'm talking about all the bits from the chip shop. He knew I'd caught him out. That he had to use both hands to eat a burger. He had to use the naan with all the chicken and pig with both hands. He knew I caught him out. He had nothing to say. Everybody else was actually now engaged into what I was saying. And then I said, well, according to Michelin star restaurants, owners of fast food restaurants, they say to engage with food, to smell the food, to understand the food. And it's got nothing to do with it, but actually touching the food gives you a sense of love for the food. Yeah, and I told them this. And I had Googled and researched it in front of them. Yeah, I said, look, Michelin star restaurant, they say you pick up some sort of food, you taste it, you get the warmth from it. There he was basically trying to say that Islam was at a time and we need to modernize it. That was his mentality. And you find that within a lot of the community where people are modernizing what their version of the deen is. It's not what you'll find from the Sahaba, Tabi'een, Tabi'een. And in that generation, Allahu Akbar, Imam Malik, rahimahullah, Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, Ahmed bin Hanbal, rahimahullah, Imam Shafi, rahimahullah. And the first 300 years of Islam, Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Sunnah Abi Dawud, Imam Tirmidhi, they were all connected. They were all in the same generation. They knew each other. Imam Tirmidhi is student of Imam Bukhari. Imam Bukhari then raises the darajat of Imam Tirmidhi after Shama'il and says, you found those 2 hadith, I haven't found them, I'd like to put them in my unique collection. It means the student had risen now after the Sunnah was taught towards him. And that's what happens in life. That's what happens in life. You may be the teacher one day, but subhanAllah, your student may excel. But you'll find all the time, mashallah, students who have himmah, they always show respect to their ustads. Why do they do this? Because Ati Allah, Ati Rasulah, Uli Amin minkum. Obey Allah and His Rasul and those in charge of you. Allah is first, then His Rasul, those in charge. Now if you look very carefully at this one, you'll notice those in charge, parents, grandparents on one side, but your ustad is a higher maqam, way higher. Why is that? Because your ustad, if you went to a madrasa, you go maktab in the evening, 5 till 8, the things he and you are going to engage in, you're not going to engage with your father with. If you ask the average teenager, how long do you speak to your dad daily? He's having to think. My dad texts me, I text him back. I'm not joking, this is where they communicate. Son, get downstairs, I'm getting the car started. It's a text message. They get in the car, no conversation going on. Nothing. After school, the father will say, how was school? Yeah. That's it. And the father's thinking, I don't want to push his button too more because I don't want him to step out the house and mix with the wrong ones. But the reality is, where's the communication between father and son? And if you look at the communication with the ulama and tilmiz, the student, they have a better communication. Our job is to nurture the next generation of tulab al-ilm. And not just tulab al-ilm. I'm talking about you and I as just being the ummah of the Prophet. We need to be engaged as well. We need to be engaged to prepare ourselves for our grandchildren and for our communities. And we need to prepare ourselves in our home. Following the Sunnah of the Prophet brings a tranquility. I work with organizations, brothers. Marriage counseling. Before Mufti Abu Zahar rahimahullah passed away, I was working with him and other organizations. We give some counseling for marriages. You know, the things that the husband says and the wife says, you can tell straight away the unfortunate casualty is the child or children. Because we work in school environments, we can see what's happening to those children. They come in with mood swings. They come in with anxiety and anger. Some of them so, clogged up that they just sit back. You can't, if you say anything wrong, they'll explode. So it's now up to us, the Deen of Islam, to actually start doing marriage counseling before youngsters even get married. This is found in the Shama'il of Imam Tirmidhi. All of, the sad thing is, gentlemen, my brothers in Islam, that everything is there. We are not actually applying it. We are not actually now practicing it. When Maulana Zahir was saying about the Maulana Sahib, after 24 years, he's now giving a talk. I know him very well. It is absolutely true that there is a failure there not to grasp his knowledge and get him in the community to give a talk. Whether you give a talk and there's literally just the muazzin there, alhamdulillah, because you don't know how many jinnat are there. You have not studied the world of the jinn. Nabi Sallallahu said in the Sahih Hadith in Sunnah Dawud to the Sahaba, that if you could see what I could see, for every human is 50 jinnat. And Rasulullah used to have conversations with them. Sulaiman was great in having conversations. He controlled them. So you don't know how many are sitting amongst us. And what they're gathering, what knowledge they're taking back to their own communities. That's the most important thing. It's not about, like I said to you, scholars for dollars, what they're looking for. If there's not going to be a big audience, I'm not coming. I've heard this, na'uzubillah. I'm not joking. They want media posters. And they'll actually tell the person, I don't want to be my picture with him, it has to be with him. And I want to be up there and not down there. They're doing all this. The people behind this thing, what kind of facade is this? But we put him. And then the other guy phones us. No. Why is my picture there? I want it down there. This is all nafs. Rasulullah did not use Instagram and Snapchat. His dawah was his Sahaba. The Sahaba, Rasulullah said they will go to every corner and they will praise the deen of Allah. Let me give you an example. Al Jazeera, you find it on YouTube. Masjids is called Great Masjids of the East. They retitled it and called it something else now. You'll have to search it. Anyway, let me tell you something. They found a masjid in China. They believe it's 50 years after Nabi Sallallahu. This means Sahaba Tabi'een. This is an example how the deen was being spread. But the closest masjid they found, in the time, they believe, literally in the Hijri and probably in the time of Rasulullah, was probably just in the area of Bangladesh, Sylhet. I think 5-6 years ago, the community, they wanted to expand the masjid. As they're expanding, they're digging, they found some steps. And then one of the elderly people, he said, there used to be a masjid here, but you built this one. And then as they went down the steps, they found archaeological artifacts going back literally 6th or 17th Hijrah of Rasulullah. And what happened was, they discovered these things and they called in archaeologists. Some British man went there. But the people from Dhaka quickly tried to grab everything and claim it all for themselves so no one sees it. But no, he said, this belongs to the masjid, and this is the evidence that your deen was spreading all the way to this eastern direction. And these are just some examples. This masjid is called the place where Bilal al-Habashi, the name of Bilal al-Habashi, you reminded, Bilal Academy. Now I studied in Syria, Ma'had al-Fath al-Islami. In the grounds of Ma'had al-Fath al-Islami is not far that they've placed Hazrat Bilal al-Habashi's grave there. Every day I went there, I used to see Bilal al-Habashi's grave there. A man of Ethiopia that was tortured in Mecca and then saved by the Sahaba, and then went to Medina, called the Azan, first Muazzin, and died in Damascus, Syria. See how Allah has chosen his destiny to spread the deen of Islam. That's my point. The Sunnah was to spread the deen, nothing else. They were not interested in business transactions. They were only interested in the transaction of Shahada. And when Hazrat Umar radiallahu went to Al-Aqsa, that's what he showed them. That the transaction you wanted, I'm here. I came, now give up Al-Aqsa. Give it up. And many of them became Muslim. You got other examples of people following Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's Sunnah. How they went on to spread the dawah and the deen of Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us tawfiq if we have good intention. Remember this. When Mufti Zahir was saying that you actually were chosen by Allah to be here at this time, that is the 100% the truth. That's not a lie. And wherever you are, in any masajid, praying, reading Quran, you were given da'wat by angels to come. They spread their wings out, especially for Tulab al-Ilm. They love the Tulab al-Ilm. That doesn't mean you're not Tulab al-Ilm. If you come and sit with the Maulana Sahib, I'm sure they do some khalqa here, read Quran, read a hadith, and they stay on from Asr to Maghrib. You are Tulab al-Ilm now. That's what you have to remember. The angels will spread their wings. I don't think the Queen of England had that. You know, I don't even think many of these kings and queens who lived in this world, who were Bedin, had angels spread their wings for them. I don't think that they even understood the sweetness of Zamzam, because the Zamzam is only for the believer. You cannot give Zamzam to anyone other than believer. I don't think they'll understand the ajwa, the cure of ajwa. How it, you know, some people, they don't pray 5 times. I'll give you an example. They come up to me, this jinn thing. I go, jinn thing? Jinn thing? Yeah, he's done a good job and he stopped you praying. It's jinn thing. It's not a jinn thing, it's you thing. It's your nafs. You can't even figure out that you should have made ghusl, made the wudu, prayed 2 rak'ah, and then came to the masjid and prayed your salah in jama'ah. That's the jinn thing, it's in your head. Because, how do we know it? فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضًا فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. In every single one of us, there is nafs. And that nafs is controlled, my brothers. Just like, you know, when you have these fires at home, you put it up and down, blaze up, blaze down. You're putting the blaze down every salah. You're controlling it. And I always say this to students of ilm, that if you have a bad thought, an evil thing inside you, don't act upon it with your tongue and your hand. Al-Muslimu man salima muslim biyadihi wa lisanihi. The protector of the believers is the one who protects from the tongue and the hands. What's happening today is youngsters are becoming warriors on the keyboard. They are talking to each other, and the talk goes from, hello, how are you? And then goes, bro. Then next thing, it's all coming to the point that hatred speech is being taught against each other. This is why we need to tell our youngsters, you need to be also educated on how to use social media. Because you didn't realize this, The minute you're tapping away something, it's being sent to someone's mobile and it's in their property. Your words have entered their property. And whatever those words are, if they're good, may Allah reward you. If they're bad, may Allah forgive you. But let's be realistic. Most of the people on social media, half the words they're saying is not good. It's ghiba and namima. Our Ustad, Allah yarhamukum, he used to tell us that a time will come, your generation will do more ghiba and namima than ever. I never understood what he's talking about. Now I understand. He's talking about this technology. The social media technology is the biggest form of backbiting and the biggest form of tale-bearing and whispering and making up rumors and lies. And in the history you'll see that when the first Sahaba became Huffaz of Quran, they were like the diamonds, the rest were like rubies. They had every Sahaba was a quality like a gold, dhahaba wa fidda wa lu'lu. But they were like the diamonds, the ones that had memorized the Quran. So the challenge was always given to memorize the Quran. And then after Rasulullah was passed away, Umar bin Khattab is actually coming and saying, let's put the Quran together. When he's putting the Quran together, Abu Bakr said, I didn't do it and I can't do it. But he said, I can do it. And another Sahaba supported him and said, do you know what Nabi Sallallahu said about this great Sahaba Umar bin Khattab? He said, Allah cannot send another Nabi. He said, there will be no Nabi, but if Allah had wished, Muhammad said, you would be a Nabi. Because the way you scared who? Iblis. The way you put fear into Iblis, you would have been a Nabi. And then this Sahaba back in Umar bin Khattab, and Umar bin Khattab is now took ijazah, and his sunnah was to put your mushaf, your copy of the Quran. You got the best scribers, the best reciters, put it together. And we have 100% knowledge that Quran Majid, Allah Himself will protect it. Hafizullah, protector is Allah. How? From the huffaz of Quran. You can put all the mushafs away. It's paper. But you cannot put the huffaz away because we don't know who they are. The only time we know where huffaz is, the one who's leading Taraweeh prayer. That's the only time we figured it out. Alhamdulillah, in my whole life, and I've lived, mashallah, quite a long life, I never met a Hafiz that said, I'm Hafiz, I'm Hafiz. Alhamdulillah, they've got low himmah, beautiful recitation, and they've understood the Quran is mellowed them down. And that is the beautiful thing about memorizing Quran. And to finish the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, look at our faith. Every child, when they reach a certain age, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, by the time they get to 10, I'm not saying they're huffaz, they've been to Madaris Makkah, Allahu Akbar, they've memorized 3 sides of the Quran. They've memorized up to Alam Nashrah Laka Sadrak, up to there, minimum. They memorized maybe Surah Mulk, part of Surah Yasin. Now the challenge is, let's bring a Yehudi child, Nasraniya child, a Sikh child, a Hindu child, normal child. Recite from your book. Watch what he's going to tell you. Can't recite anything. Do you know why? Because their books are man-made. And like man-made things, they always get changed. They get changed as generations go by. You speak to a Manchester United supporter, we're the best. And then you talk to them now, and they say, City's the best. But when they were the best, they were the best. And that was the same thing in Nabi Sallam's time. Everyone was saying, the Romans are the best. Then Allah said, Surah Rum, وَغُلِبَتُ Rum, Rome will be destroyed. Everyone was laughing with hysteria. How can this happen? 3,000 years, time of Isa alayhi salam, the Romans were there. And Muslims saying they're going to be finished. He said, Constantinople, we call it Istanbul. In our generation, we all know Istanbul is a Muslim land. But in their generation, you know how we have the Kaaba in Holy Haram Sharif? The Hagia Sophia church was like their version of the Kaaba. Now it's a masjid. Allahu Akbar. You see, they wouldn't believe it because the Christian faith of Roman Empire, the Byzantines were based right there and they didn't believe it. Now, you look at the history, no one's going to say, it was a Christian nation. They're going to say, no, what are you talking about? This masjid, it's a masjid. Then you say, no, look at the history. What did Rasulullah said? Ghulibatul Rum from the Quran. The destruction of Rome will happen. To end, my brothers, and I wish I could carry on, but to end, I want you to think today. What you're going to take from this, what you're going to take, and how are you going to make progression. I'll work with Mufti Zahir. I'll give further talks. It's not a problem. But the most important thing is, what will you do to gain knowledge? I was quite fortunate leaving the UK, studying in multiple countries, with multiple ulama. I was quite fortunate. But no one's going to be able to do that now because of situations in so many countries. I was doing that in 1994. It's not 1994 now. This is 2020, and the whole demographics and geography has changed of the world. So now you have the tools of the ulama in this country. Alhamdulillah, we're seeing a lot of ulama. I challenge them when they graduate. I say, is that it? 1921, that's it, you're not going to do any more. Why don't you look at the mathematicians, the scientists of the ulama, and do a degree and give them a run for their money. Give them a run for their money, then get employed and give them even a bigger run for their money. When they see you, they see what? A Muslim who's honorable, likable, and only has sociable skills based on Islam. And you know one thing? You'll see, you'll become an attraction that maybe they take shahada. Say, Ameen. Jazakumullah khair. Wa ma alayna illa balagh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.